What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Uncork'd. I'm your host today, Rob Medina, and I thank you very much for joining me here today, because today I'm reviewing the movie The Darkness of the Road. This film was written and directed by Eduardo Rodriguez, who I was aware of ever since he had done the movie with Scott Adkins, who was one of my favorite action stars of all time, and also one of my new favorite actors who I've come across in the last 10 years for the film El Gringo, which I was a very, very big fan of. And it's hard to believe that as of this recording, this movie came out back in 2012, so it's been almost 10 years this movie had come out. And I thoroughly did enjoy the film because I've seen the movie on more than one occasion. So I became aware of the director after that film, but I'd never actually seen any of his other work since that film. I know he had directed the sequel to the 2011 remake of Fright Night for the film Fright Night 2 New Blood, I think is what it's called. But again, I have not seen that film, so I haven't seen anything he's done since El Gringo. So I was very much looking forward to see what he was going to do with this movie, considering what I enjoyed what he had done with El Gringo. I'm going to have to be completely honest, I really didn't like the film very much at all. There was a lot that I just didn't really connect with when it came to the overall story, the execution of the story. And there were quite a few things I did like about the film, but it was just in short pockets that I came across the movie. And I've seen the movie twice just to make sure that maybe if I didn't understand it the first time around, I would probably get a better understanding the second time around. And unfortunately, it really wasn't that way for me at all. But I will get in a little bit to the plot. No spoilers for this review because I don't want to ruin for anybody who hasn't seen the film. And I'm sure that when you watch the film, you'll understand what I'm trying to come across here when it comes to the negatives and the positives. So I'll get into the plot, of course, my positives, my negatives, and then my rating. In a dark and seemingly starless night, a single mother, Siri, and her daughter, Eve, travel down a desolate desert road on their way to their new home. Siri is full of hope and ambition, content to be leaving behind a life that was full of suffering and bad memories. But after meeting a young hitchhiker during a pit stop, Siri realizes that her 6-year-old daughter has gone missing. As a frantic search of Eve develops, a merciless force begins to attack and torment the two women, unraveling a world of terror. Siri and the hitchhiker must survive this hellish nightmare if they are to discover the terrifying truth behind Eve's disappearance. And that right there is the film in a nutshell. So now let's get into my positives. So it was really difficult for me to find some positives that I can really take from the movie. As I mentioned earlier, it was just mainly pockets of where I found some positive I did take away from the movie that I thought worked very well. The first positive that comes to mind for me personally actually has to do with the gas attendant who was working behind the counter, in which our character has a conversation with and trying to make some purchases at that gas station. I really did like, and especially when you see him at the end of the movie, I thought, oh, this guy's an overall really good actor. But I'm not sure if that's going to be the best way to start off this positive for me here in this review, because that's really the only thing that sticks out to mind for me as far as my first thoughts on a positive. I will say, though, I do appreciate the attempt that they were going for in creating the dark atmosphere that the film definitely does carry in this movie, which is very prevalent in the film. But when I get into the negatives, I'll go a little bit further into that as far as what I also didn't like about it as well. But I did appreciate the attempt. I also did appreciate the attempt with the story that the director was going for, which I didn't really get it the first time, and I understood it a little bit better the second time around, but I just didn't really connect with the story overall. So unfortunately for me, some of the positives I really can't think too many of that I really did take away from this film. I mean, the young girl that plays the daughter in the movie, I thought she did fine in the film. She wasn't bad at it by any means, but she wasn't in the movie that much, without, again, getting to spoilers here. But when she was in the movie, she definitely put on a pretty good performance. But overall, I think that's all I can really point out. Unfortunately, that's really the only positive I can think of right now that I can really focus on as far as what I did like about the film without really getting into spoilers here. So now let's just get into my negatives. All right, so with the negatives, I'm trying to be really careful how I can point this out here, because I'm not here to shit on everyone's work here, because that's not my intention to do this here at all. But as I said earlier, there were some things I did appreciate about the attempt with the story and the attempt with the atmosphere that they were creating with the story. Unfortunately for me, those attempts did not work for me at all. The approach with this dark atmosphere that they were trying to achieve with this movie just didn't click with me at all. As far as the overall story is concerned, I really didn't like the story, the way it was executed with the direction of the story, especially when you get to the end, where I understood what they were going for, but it just didn't really sit all that well with me personally. So there were certain things about the approach with the story that the director was trying to go for that I thought looked pretty good on paper, but the execution of it for me personally just didn't click all that well for me. one of the biggest problems I have with films, I would say, and especially in the last 15 to 20 years, is the use of shaky cam. Now, there really isn't a whole lot of that in this movie, but there were certain moments where it definitely was used in this film, where it was really annoying. I didn't like it at all. I'm not saying it was like that all the time. It really wasn't. I would imagine it was supposed to make the audience feel like the character, where they just don't know what's going on, and it's all this chaos and this sense of confusion that's happening at the same time. And then once it's done, you're like, wow, what did I just experience? I'm assuming that's the attempt that they were going for, to get the audience to feel what the character is feeling. Another thing I had a problem with the film was the way the film was edited, to also create that frenetic feel of you having to feel what the character's going through in the movie, where it just didn't really sit all that well with me. There's also another part of the film that, without really getting into spoilers, you start to see how certain things are occurring, and then you realize they weren't even real. So you're not really sure if it's a reality or if it's all happening in a dream. It's left for you to keep guessing as far as what's really happening as the film progresses. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I just don't think that the way it was executed in this movie, for me personally, didn't work all that well for me. I did appreciate the attempt that they were going for. I started to see that the second time around, but it just still did not sit well with me all that much. So the other thing I'm going to also point out here too, the sense of like misdirection. I mean, not the sense, the misdirection that you get with the story. I didn't really care for it all that much personally. There was just so much about this film that had really started to lose my interest. I'm going to say by the time the main character, I meant to say, got to the gas station. Once I had gotten to the gas station, you could almost feel where the direction of the story was going to go, as far as the type of editing choices they were going to be making, and the use of jump scares. Stuff like that kind of bothers me. Now, there are some jump scares that I do appreciate. I'm the guy that hates it. I hate jump scares because I just don't like to be scared. I love horror movies. It's my second favorite genre of all time, and I hate being scared. But I love the genre so much that there are certain films that just do it so successfully, and there are others that just don't do it very well at all. For me, unfortunately, this is one of those films that just didn't do it all that well for me, and I was actually rather annoyed with it. So I felt, when I was watching the film, that I was just getting bothered by the attempts of jump scares that occurred in this movie that I could sense coming, did actually come, but just didn't do anything for me. There's actually one thing I forgot to point out with the positives that I'm going to bring up here, but there's a reason why I'm bringing it up here in the negatives, which I'll be getting into. In the movie, the lead character uses a Walkman disc player, which I thought was kind of funny because I don't know what year the movie takes place in, but she's playing the song, which I thought was odd too, the song Piano Sonata 14 by Ludwig van Beethoven. So she's playing that song on the Discman player, and then it starts skipping. And I remember watching that scene. I thought, that's hilarious. I know exactly what that feels like. For anyone who's grown up in the late 80s, the 90s, and early 2000s, and uses those Walkman disc players, they know exactly what I'm talking about here. And I thought I actually did enjoy that part of the film. It didn't make me laugh out loud, but I just thought that was pretty funny to see that in this movie. But the reason I'm bringing this up here to kind of start with the positive and get right back into the negatives is because for some reason the use of that song didn't really work for me. I don't know what it was about the song that they were using it here for the film. I'm not sure what the origins of the song was, if it had a certain meaning behind it that would reflect with the story. I'm not really sure, but I kind of got the feeling that, considering that the song is a beautiful song, it really, really is. It puts you at ease, but it has this depressing overtone to it. But you also kind of get, at least for me, a little sense of hope, if you will, that I thought worked well considering the journey after I watched the movie the first time around and then watching it the second time around. That's kind of the vibe that I got from it. But I just didn't really, I don't know, I guess it just didn't do anything for me. I didn't connect with it. It didn't click for me at all. So, I'm trying really hard not to go into any other spoilers with this film, because there's a lot of things that occur in this movie when it comes to the character's story, and then when you start getting revealed certain things along the way, at first for me it didn't really make any sense. It just didn't click with me. Upon the second time watching it, I started to understand it a little bit better, but it just still didn't click for me, as I already mentioned before. So I guess this is where I'm going to stop right now when it comes to the negatives, because I really can't go into further details without really getting to all the spoilers here for you, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone out there who hasn't seen the movie, because I'm sure there's gonna be someone out there who's gonna watch the film and will actually enjoy the movie, and I hope you do. But from here on out, I'm gonna get right into my rating. So as I said earlier, I didn't really like this film all that much. Now, as I'm about to give my rating for this film, please understand that the rating that I'm giving, I'm not saying that the movie sucks. I'm not saying that at all, because there were some moments in the film that I thought worked really well. There were spurts of that. But for me, the negatives outweigh the positives. I didn't really care for the character. I didn't really care for the character's journey, the overall story. I appreciated the attempts that they were going for as far as the story in itself, the character's journey, the atmosphere. But it just wasn't enough for me to really click with the story overall. So I hope you guys do check out the film despite my rating here. I really do want you guys to go out of your way to check it out, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And if you guys do enjoy it, fantastic. I think that's great, because obviously films are subjective. But for me, I hate to say it, but this is exactly how I feel about the film. For me, it's not worth a shot. No, mate, it ain't for me. And those are my thoughts on the film. If you have seen the film, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. As of this recording, this video will be uploaded on the channel on December 13th, which will be on Monday. And then the film will release on VOD on December 14th. So make sure you guys do check out the film. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you share and like our videos, and also hit the notification bell while you're there. Follow us on our social media accounts on Instagram, Facebook, New Release Wednesdays, and on Twitter at the NRW. Follow me on my social media accounts on Instagram, Rob_Medina0585, on Twitter, RobMedina0585, and on Facebook, simply just Rob Medina. And I have a show on the channel called You're So Cool with Rob Medina, and I have social media for the show as well too. On Instagram, You're So Cool with Rob Medina, and on Twitter, You're So Cool WRM. And I want to thank you all very much for checking out this review. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and until next time, stay safe out there, and cheers.